what you should have in your dog first aid kit and the injuries that dogs can get and how to deal with them. Dangerous foods for dogs. The first one, chocolate. Most of us know that chocolate is bad for dogs. It contains theobromine, which can cause dogs to vomit, have increased thirst, abdominal pains, seizures, and death in some cases, depending on the amount ingested. A general rule is the darker the chocolate, the more dangerous it is to dogs. Caffeine. Caffeine has similar side effects to chocolate, so it is important to keep caffeine away from dogs. That includes used tea bags and coffee grounds and some energy drinks. Alcohol. Dogs are more sensitive to humans than to alcohol, so the alcohol will give them the same side effects that humans have, but it can sometimes be, it can come on quicker since they're more sensitive. It can also give them damage to their liver and kidneys, and it causes their blood to be too acidic, which will give them cardiac arrest. Onions and also garlic and shallots cause the dog's blood cells to die, and the symptoms of this are if the dog is weak, breathless, if they collapse, vomit, or if they don't eat. Grapes. This includes raisins, and it can cause kidney failure in some dogs, and it can also cause vomiting and diarrhea. This only happens in some dogs. Scientists are still not sure why only some dogs are affected by grapes and others aren't, but you should generally keep them away from your dog so that they don't get sick. Macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts can cause the dog's hind legs to be weak and just for them to be weak in general. It can also cause trembling, vomiting, and fever. My grandma's dog once ate chocolate-covered macadamia nuts, which is 2 things from the list. So she lost strength in her back legs, and we had to take her to the vet, and she ended up living from it. Cooked bones are also bad for dogs. The cooked bones can break easily, and when they break, they're sharp, and they can get caught in the dog's digestive system if they eat them, and they can also choke on the bones. Also not listed on this, moldy foods, sugar-free gum, and bread dough are also bad for your dog. Household dangers for dogs. Tylenol and other pain relievers, such as ibuprofen, can cause liver damage and disrupt the oxygen flow to the dog's heart. So if your dog ever gets these, you should contact your vet. And you can also contact your vet for pain relievers that are safe for your dog. Antifreeze is also bad for your dog. It tastes sweet to them, so they'll often lick it up if it's dried up on a driveway. So you should keep that away from them. And even in small amounts, it can kill your dog. So you should make sure to keep it away. De-icing salt is poisonous to dogs, and they will often lick it off their feet if it's on their feet. So you should clean your dog's feet when they come in, and they can also wear doggy boots so that they don't get any of the salt on their feet. Household plants. Some household plants can be poisonous to dogs, so you should just keep them out of the way so that your dog can't eat them. In your first aid kit, you should have gauze, which can be used for wounds. You should also have tape and bandages for wounds and to stop bleeding. You should also have activated charcoal, which this absorbs poisons. And you should also have hydrogen peroxide, which will induce vomiting in case your dog swallows something poisonous. Both of these should not be used unless you have contacted your vet or animal poison control first. You should also have a thermometer to take your dog's temperature to see if they have a fever, and an eye dropper, which is used to flush wounds or give oral treatments. You should also have phone numbers of your dog's vet, the emergency emergency vet clinic in your area and the Animal Poison Control Center number, which can be found online, and it's also 888-4ANI-HELP. And they can help you with any problems if your dog gets something that they shouldn't have gotten. Injuries. When your dog gets an injury, even if they're the sweetest dog without an injury, when they get an injury, they're often scared and nervous, and they can sometimes bite. So you should first muzzle them. If you don't have a muzzle, you can use a sock or a necktie or anything. I have a piece of string here, and it should be at least 18 inches to make a temporary muzzle. And to do this, you would tie a knot about in the middle of the string, and you would put it underneath your dog's mouth and go up to the top and cross, go over under the bottom and cross, and then come around in the back and tie it. When you do this, it should be tight enough so that your dog can't bite you, but loose enough so that it won't interfere with their breathing. Fractures. When your dog has a fracture, you should lay them flat so that they won't injure their foot anymore, and you should call your vet and bring them to the vet. You should make sure that they stay on a firm surface while transporting to the vet. And it's better not to splint it yourself if you're not trained in it. You can sometimes damage the fracture more than it was already broken, so you should let the vet splint it. Bleeding. When your dog has external bleeding, you should first muzzle your dog and then put gauze on the wound and hold pressure on it for the blood to clot, and this can take several minutes. You should hold it on the dog's foot for about 3 minutes and then check to make sure it stops, and then you should take them to the vet and clean it. If it's severe, you can apply a tourniquet using an elastic band and gauze and put it on the leg, and like this, if it was on the leg, and you can slowly loosen it as the blood starts to clot. If the dog's bleeding is severe, you should take it to the vet immediately because it can be life-threatening. Internal bleeding. If the blood is some signs of this is if the blood is coming from the dog's mouth, rectum, nose, or if they're coughing up blood, if they collapse, if they have blood in their urine, or a weak and rapid pulse. If this happens to your dog, you should keep them quiet, warm, and take them to the vet immediately. Choking. Some symptoms of your dog choking are if they have trouble breathing, they're making choking sounds, or if they're pawing at their mouth. If your dog can breathe, you should call the vet and keep them calm. Be careful if you look in their mouth because they can sometimes bite. If you can see the object and it is easily able to be taken out, you can do that with tweezers or your hands, but you really shouldn't do this if it's stuck because you can get it caught more in their throat. And if your dog collapses while they are choking, you should lay them on their side and strike their rib cage 3 to 4 times. And the purpose of this is to push the air out of their rib cage and get the object dislodged. Burns. When your dog gets a burn, if it's severe, you should apply an ice water compress immediately. If your dog gets a chemical burn, you should muzzle them and then flush with a large quantity of water immediately. If your dog has seizures, you shouldn't try to restrain them, and you should keep them away from objects that they can bump into. You should also time the seizures. They usually last from 2 to 3 minutes, and you want to keep your pet warm and quiet, and you should call the vet. If your dog isn't breathing and doesn't have a heartbeat, you might need to start doing CPR to see if your dog doesn't have a heartbeat or isn't breathing. To check for breathing, you would see if your dog's chest is moving up and down, and to check for their heartbeat, you would feel for their heart. Their heart is located on their left side, right by their leg, which is right about here, and you could feel to see if their heart is beating. If you don't see them breathing and you don't feel a heartbeat, to start CPR, you would lay them on their side and start with giving breaths through their nose. To do this, you would hold their mouth closed and breathe in through their nose and check for their chest to rise. This indicates that the breath has gone through them. You would do the breaths one every 2 seconds and make sure you check for their chest to expand. If you give 5 breaths and they still have no heartbeat and they aren't conscious, you alternate 2 breaths for every 10 compressions, and the compressions would be given over your dog's heart with your palm. And for a small dog, you would compress about 1/2 of an inch to 1 inch down, and for a large dog, you can compress up to 2 inches down. You should check after doing this. You should check for a pulse every 2 minutes, and you can continue doing this for up to 10 minutes. In an emergency, this can sometimes be your dog's only chance to live, but the chances of them surviving from resuscitation are very low. Also, all first aid should be followed immediately by veterinary care, and the first aid shown is not a substitute for vet care. Conclusion. Today I've taught you about the dangerous food for your dogs, which include some of the ones I talked about were chocolate and caffeine. Also, I taught you about household dangers that your dogs can find, such as antifreeze and household plants. I also taught you about your first aid kit for your dogs and what you should have inside of it, such as the gauze and tape. I also taught you about the injuries that your dog can get and how to deal with them. My sources for this project were American Veterinary Medical Association, doggybuddy.com, and humanesociety.org, and ASPCA.org. Are there any questions?